Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to round one of this one-on-one battle between Elves and Delver. And we have won the die roll. And we also have a pretty nice looking hand here. We can get pretty aggressive with these. And we also have Spider Silk Armor mains. So I don't think we're going to mulligan. We're going to keep this hand. Let's see what the opponent... New Plan, who I have to thank very much for agreeing to do this, is going to do. He's also going to keep. So we have to decide if we want to play Ranger or if we want to play Sentinel first. And because the nature of our hand here, I think we actually want to play Nettle Sentinel on turn 1. I don't really see any use with this because we have the 2 lands. So I'm going to go ahead and lead on Nettle Sentinel. We'll go ahead and pass it back to him. Now, his best play would be a Delver, but it looks like he's just going to pass here. So, we've got 2 Elves here and a Rancor, so we could go for the Sylvan Ranger to get a land next turn, but if we play these 2 Elves out, our mana is going to be insane. So we can actually play Quirion Ranger, Birchlore Rangers, and then throw the Rancor on. I think that's a little better than just playing Sylvan Ranger. Now, the Birchlore could get countered. We're going to lead with Quirion to make sure it gets into play. Actually, maybe it's better to play this, because if Quirion gets countered with a Daze, we can double up and get a Rancor down. I'm actually not sure what's better. We do have the Sylvan Ranger, but the Birchlore ramps us. Each of these ramps us. So I think I'm going to go with Birchlore just because if there is a Daze, we can punish that pretty hardcore. We're going to cast this for its normal, and we're going to start auto-yielding to this ability. And that's going to resolve. I don't think there's any way he can counter that. The Quirion Ranger, however, might not resolve. Actually, we can add mana, which is crazy. We can pay for a Daze here, which is just pretty wild. So even if he attempts to Daze this Rancor, we can actually use this ability to untap you, and then he will still be untapped, and we can still add mana to our pool. Very crazy. So we'll just go ahead and tap the Nettle Sentinel since it's going to untap anyway. This actually gets around Daze also by bouncing a forest, which is insane. Alright, so we will use the ability, and it's gonna resolve, and we'll bash for 4. So that was a pretty explosive turn, and he's gonna be kind of fighting uphill at this point to deal with our board because we have a Nettle Sentinel with a Rancor on it. A snap could get him out of this. Looks like he's just going to pass, and I don't think it would be wise to attempt a Spider Silk Armor. We now have a Kabu Primarch, and we need to cast something, obviously, if we want to untap this Sentinel. Now this represents so much. It represents snap into a number of plays, such as Spell Stutter Sprite, Counterspell, and Deprive, as well as Daze. He still might have Daze. I think we can attempt a Sylvan Ranger because that gets around a number of spells. I don't think we want to pull the trigger on this yet, and this is just too far out of reach for us to do. So we're going to cast Sylvan Ranger and try and pick up an island. And this plays around Daze because we can pay for it. But otherwise we're just going to attack. And we'll send both of these. I don't want to send the Quirion Ranger into a potential Spell Stutter Sprite. Yeah, so we'll play this. We don't even need to play this. So yeah, we're just going to send these 2, it looks like. We have 4 to convoke this, but that's not really on my list of things to do. So I'm willing to trade a Birch Lore for a Spell Stutter Sprite at this point. Alright, so we're just going to pass. And no EOT anything. And he's just passing on 3 mana, so this is very suspicious. No Spire Golem. He's probably holding a Spire Golem, just waiting to cast it next turn. We have an additional Sylvan Ranger here. So if we cast that and it does not resolve, we can in turn play Spider Silk Armor. We don't have quite enough to pull the trigger on you. So yeah, let's just go ahead and play another Sylvan Ranger out, because the Nettle Sentinel will untap. And I don't think we're going to get punished for flooding the board by any stretch. So yes, we will use the ability, pick up a forest. And I think we just attack with these 3 now. And he may actually snap something. Or he'll just take 6, and now he's on a 1-turn clock. So I don't see any reason to try and overcommit. He's going to preordain. And I think we've pretty much got this one locked down. I have no idea what's in his hand because he hasn't shown us anything. He's going to keep both cards, so that's very interesting here. Plays a 3rd land, so he's got something big planned for us. I actually think I want to untap the Nettle Sentinel right now, because I'm not sure I'm even going to play anything out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We have enough mana to play this if we really want. And we may just want to... Okay, he's going to snap the Nettle Sentinel on our upkeep. So we'll let that resolve because there's nothing we can really do. I mean, we could add mana with it, but that doesn't seem too feasible. And this goes to our hand. So what we can try and do is bait out with the Rancor. He's probably got... What is it called? He's almost certainly got Spell Stutter Sprite, but then we can resolve Spider Silk Armor, which I think would be pretty awesome. So we can try and put this on a Sylvan Ranger and go from there. He's gonna have to get rid of the Rancor to stay in the game. I didn't consider all my options. Oh, it's just a straight up counterspell. Okay, so I think we're better off casting Spider Silk Armor, getting him down to 1. Yeah, well, I mean, what does Armor do for us here? We could just cast 2 more guys, right? He doesn't have anything for 1 mana, so we could just cast 2 more guys, and there's pretty much no way he's getting out of it. His only removal snap, so I think we'll do that rather than showing him Spider Silk Armor. And we'll cast Nettle Sentinel first, followed by Priest of Titania. And he may daze it, but that's okay. We can also untap a creature to pay for the daze. So actually our deck very good against daze. And next turn we can cast Primarch if we need to, but he's at 1, no life gain. Only so many blockers he can play. Oh, he's going to Gush. Alright, yeah, so this is why I wanted to do this, just to get as many people on the board as possible. 3 mana is probably... okay. 1 blocker. 2 mana. For another Gush, so that's his second Gush, that's his last Gush in the main deck. Second Preordain out of 4. I don't really see him getting out of this one. So he bottoms and puts 1 on top for a Delver. We don't have any really responses here. Alright, so we take game 1. He had a very slow start, and our start was just really explosive. So we take that down. So we have one game to our advantage. Being on the draw is going to hurt us a bit. And I already, as I detailed in the written portion, I have an idea of how I want to try and board for this. So the Primarch is just so slow. So very slow. 8 mana. We don't want to really cast it for 4. And even if we did, regardless, you know, it just gets countered, it gets bounced. It's just really bad tempo for us. So that immediately allows us to free up some space for these armors, which is going to protect us against his Serrated Arrows plan. Serrated Arrows is a huge card for him. And then the Gleeful Sabotage will also do that. Now, the other card we're going to remove is going to be Priest of Titania. She does one thing, and she does it well, but she costs 2 when our other guys cost 1. So that's kind of a good thing and a bad thing. Our costing 1 makes us more vulnerable to Spell Stutter, but it makes it better against the other counter spells that he has. And it frees up our 2-drop slot a bit for these extra copies of Gleeful Sabotage, hit Spire Golem and Serrated Arrows, and then Viridian Longbow will be a nice little bit of removal for some of his creatures here. Now, we still retain a lot of our bigger guys. Like, our relevant threats are the Sentinel, the Rancor, the armor to buff guys up, and the Timberwatch Elf. So those are going to be some of the key things we want to keep in mind. And we'll see how Distant Melody works out. I have yet to see one. So let's go to game 2. Alright, welcome to game number 2 here. We're going to be on the draw, and this hand looks like it has some promise. We once again have a Nettle Sentinel. We have a way to make mana and get some land, but being on the draw is going to be a little rough, but I'm not going to mulligan. Now, we have to start thinking about him having Coral Net. He's, of course, got this turn 1 Delver, which is going to be a bit of a problem. And I think what we're going to want to do is try and race that. Wow, we've got that as well with our Nettle Sentinel. So we could play Rangers and then turn 2 play Sylvan into Sentinel, or we could go turn 1 Nettle, attack, or we could play Birchlore, tap them both to make a Rancor, or tap them both to make a Sylvan Ranger. So yeah, I think we are going to lead on the Nettle Sentinel. It could meet a Daze, but I am expecting him to actually take out Daze, because Daze would have been horrible for him that game. In fact, I think it's quite possible that he actually had Daze in hand and just didn't have like anything to do with it. So he's got a second Delver. This hand is looking pretty fierce, and he may not have Daze here, so from what I can tell. So now we can get pretty nasty. We can play Birchlore Rangers. Then we can tap both and the Sylvan Ranger to make the Sylvan Ranger, and the island to make the Sylvan Ranger. Then we can tap the Ranger and the Sentinel to make Rancor. So I think that's going to be what we attempt to do. So we're just going to hard cast this. This deck is really interesting because you always have extra mana. You rarely have exactly what you think you have. You usually have maybe like 1 or 2 more that you didn't consider. So this is really crazy because we can tap the Nettle Sentinel to put a Rancor on himself, which is just nuts. Next turn, I don't even know what we're doing. I can't even think that far ahead, man. But right now, we're going to bash for 4. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm positive he doesn't have Daze. I'm pretty sure he boarded it out, but I have no idea of knowing. We're going to have to ask him later on. Find out. But that was a nice one. If he flips here, we're going to be against the clock. He actually doesn't flip, so for him, he's going to hope that it's a land. If it's not a land, okay, he's going to set up the Delvers to flip. It has to be a creature, right? So man, we're going to resolve Spider Silk Armor and or Timberwatch Elf. And I think Spider Silk's just going to be so much better to block these Delvers with. Timberwatch Elf would be pretty nuts, though. I mean, I don't know how if he doesn't have a land this turn, Timberwatch Elf is actually going to get our guy through for 1,000,000. No, because he could have Coral Net. He could have drawn Coral Net there. And yeah, we're going to take 2. We can't untap the Nettle Sentinel yet. He could have set it up so that he has Daze, but I highly doubt it. Spider Silk Armor gets us in for 6 and puts him to 10, but Timberwatch Elf means that he either can't flip Yeah, I think Timberwatch Elf is just so much more devastating because he either has a land on the top, so these guys don't flip, and if they don't flip, that's it. Just we don't care either way. But then again, it's actually pretty likely that he has a land. So is it imperative that we cast this? Actually, it's not if they don't flip. But if they do flip, he doesn't have a land, and that means, did he shuffle? He didn't shuffle, so it must be a land. So they're not going to flip, but he might have a snap for this, which is kind of what I'm afraid of. Wow. We'll have 4 guys. The Timberwatch Elf is just so devastating. Put him to 10, or this gives us a defensive posture. Yeah, maybe we want the armor. But it's definitely a land on the top. So yeah, I really don't know what's a better play. I'm actually going to go for the Timberwatch Elf. It just has so much better potential. It's just like way more threatening. And we have 2 mana here. We're not going to do anything with that. We're just going to attack for 6. Boom. Now we're going to potentially, well, he can't even attack through this. I highly doubt, oh, he did keep a snap, but he doesn't have a land because he would have played it last turn. Okay, so now I think we're just going to have him. No, he must have Coral Net, but we can discard a card to the Coral Net, play Timberwatch Elf, we'll have 5 guys. This becomes 9 power, so he's going to go to 1. Oh man, I'll take it. So he has a snap. Let me close this. Untap. He doesn't have Coral Net. I can play 2 guys and then Timberwatch my guy. As far as I know, there isn't anything at 1 mana he could possibly have. He's just gonna block. So we actually can send everybody and pump whoever we want. So we can play both of our guys out. That gives us 2, 4, 6 elves, and that's lethal. Yeah, that seems good enough, I guess. Yeah, I don't think he has Vapor Snag or anything like that. So we're going to do it this way. And we'll go ahead and pump, or we'll tap both of these guys to make this guy. And we're just gonna bash. Yes, 6. He's at 10, so that'll make this a 10-8. He's blocking that, so I could pump you. Yeah, I guess I'll pump the Sylvan Ranger and threaten lethal. If he can bounce one of them, he's still at 6. And we have 2 Timberwatch Elves to just crush. Yeah, I don't think he has anything. So, all right, we take match number 1. Actually, 2 explosive hands for us that really helped out. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll get geared up for round number 2 here.